A quick word of warning, this game has some gruesome scenes. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a brand new King's Ransom Let's Play. We are going to be taking a look at The Vanishing of Ethan Carter, a pretty interesting game that just came out recently on Steam. So I have the option to continue. I've played a little bit. I've kind of dealt with the first 2 or 3 puzzles. The first 2 murders, I'll call them, and you'll see very quickly what I mean. It's a very interesting game. It's kind of a first-person, almost a first-person point-and-click adventure, I want to call it. It's all about kind of, you play as a paranormal detective, and you are trying to find this boy, Ethan Carter. He has vanished, so hence the name of the game. Haha! Fun how that works. And we're looking for him. And so we're kind of a play on the sort of paranormal detective trope where someone who can commune with the dead solves mysteries, right? Things that are typically considered unsolvable, and this person can kind of get hints from the dead. Kind of a fictional trope. Anyway, that's what we're playing as. You'll see how it works. The game is very open. It's like an open world, like for this little area, this little town that we're going to be visiting, and we can explore and do all sorts of puzzles in different orders, or skip some, or maybe not even find some. Who the heck knows? I'm assuming there's going to be a series of different endings, kind of based on how well you do with all the puzzles and how many you find and solve and all of that sort of stuff. I really don't know. I don't know much about the game. I watched the trailers on Steam. That's how I kind of learned the mechanics and learned a bit about what I'm actually doing in the game. And then I watched, the reason I found this game was because I was watching Jim Sterling's YouTube video where he tried to play the game a little bit. And that really intrigued me. So here we go. We're going to go ahead and start a brand new game. And let's dive right in, shall we? Yes, I am okay overwriting my previous progress. I want to start a new one. We should be getting a cutscene any moment here. Any minute. There we go. See, this game is a narrative experience that does not hold your hand.
Ethan Carter I didn't know, but he knew who I was. When the police won't help you and the priests don't believe you, you call on Paul Prospero. You call on me. If you're a kid like Ethan, you're right, plenty do. Ethan's letter started out just like any other fan mail, but soon there were mentions of things no little boy should know about. There are places that exist that very few people can see. Ethan could have drawn a map. I hadn't entered Red Creek Valley yet, but already I could feel its darkness reaching out for me. Finding Ethan Carter wasn't going to be as easy as knocking on his door. I was too late for that. To find Ethan, I had to figure out what this place was trying to hide from me.
I'm curious to know if we can go back down this tunnel, actually. This is something that I hadn't tried when I started playing this game on my own. Although it doesn't... Are we making progress? We might be. Maybe not? Oh, yes, there's a zoom button. Oh, yeah, looks like we're getting to the other side. Oh, that was a fun fluke, and I think we are right back where we just were. So, no escaping from this game. Okay. I might need to do something about the frame rate. It's a little janky when I'm trying to record here. Anyway, the game. So, let's just kind of wander around here in this area. We're going to start seeing these traps, and this will introduce our first mechanic for puzzles like this. So the edges of the screen get a little bit blurry, and we can start trying to sense something from this trap. So there's just that one little piece. So as we go and we find more traps in this area, this is one of the puzzles that I believe I've solved. It's like there's going to be a trap over here somewhere. Maybe? There we go. So there's another one. So we can sense something here, and so we'll see there's the first piece in the bottom right, and now we get a second piece kind of curving along the left there. So our goal is to just interact with the world, for these mysteries at least, interact with the world in a way that kind of lets us sense something that's going on, and we'll find clues as to what's actually going on in the world. So like, here's another trap. So of course that gives us 3. Still not enough, though. I think there's another one back over here, actually. And there's no indication as to where any of these are, or that this is even a real puzzle or anything like that. So there's going to be a lot of exploration and a lot of me trying to figure out what's going on here, and I'm probably not going to get a very good ending, but I am going to try to solve as much as I can. Forget... Okay. There's number 4. Kind of made me jump a little bit. So it looks like we might be just missing one more in the middle there. So we need to go find a 5th trap, and I do think I know where this one was. I think we can actually go up over this hill here a little bit. Yeah, and it's back here in this corner. So, shebang, there's 5. So now, we gotta do kind of a little Silent Hill reality shift thing when we sense this all the way. So, it moved us a little bit. First of all, how many freaking skulls and bones and things are here? Look how creepy that is. That's creepy. But then there's a page here that we can read. So this is how we get a lot of the story and lore of what's going on here. And there's something on the back. We'll look at that in a moment. So if we zoom on this... does it have a name? Sap. S-A-P, by Ethan Carter. An old man came to the forest every day to drink sap from the trees. To get there, the old man had to step around many dangerous traps. The villagers believed this old man had hidden a jade amulet in the forest. But the old man wanted the villagers to believe this, because then they would search the forest for treasure and not drink his sap. One cool fall night, someone set fire to the forest, and the fire spread to the village. The old man escaped the fire by covering himself in sap. When he returned to the village, he found all the villagers' bones. The old man sat down and cried. Then he found more sap and drank. Or then he found more sap to drink. Whatever. We could also hit space and just get the text in like normal human readable format. Not have to decipher all the drops and scribbles and little kid spelling. So then, yes, here's the painting, or the drawing on the back. So there's a house, a question mark on the door. It looks like it's on fire. There's trees, also on fire. And there's a bear trap, kind of in the bottom right-hand corner, like the one that we looked at and sensed earlier. So I don't really fully understand the purpose of these pages, but they seem kind of important to get. So, yeah, that's one down.
Ethan, I told you, you can't be here.
But Gramp, I wrote something for you.
That's real nice. Thank you. Just leave it. I'll read it later.
And now we're back in actual reality. So we don't have the bones of the villagers and whatnot. We just have a bunch of bottles of sap. And then there's a fire. And we got another little scrap of newspaper to read here. So, one dead in a house fire on this side. And then, of course, more interesting, after heated public hearing, no answers for the Vandegrift heirs. And we can actually read, I know that like the article's charred and it's kind of tough to read what's going on like in the corner there, but we can actually read the complete article. if we check it out here. So, one dead in a house fire. Fire damaged a historic home in Red Creek Valley Wednesday morning, according to officials from the Bayfield County Fire Department. A family of 6 was asleep when the blaze broke out at the remote house, once owned by Albert Vandegrift, at 46 Old Ogden Road in Red Creek Valley. Oh, I'm already tripping over my words. I've just started. I've only been going for like 10 minutes. I apologize, everybody. Gail Carter, 58, was pronounced dead at the scene. Remaining family members were able to escape. Carter's husband, Edwin, 62, told investigators he may have fallen asleep with a lit cigarette in his hand. Firefighters were dispatched to the scene at 1:22 a.m., I guess, and remained at the scene until around 5 a.m. I mean, is that a 1:22 or a 4:22? I don't know. Around 5 a.m. Wednesday, they returned to the property 4 hours later to extinguish hotspots which had rekindled. Assisting at the initial fire was the Ashland Township Volunteer Fire Department. Masonville Emergency Medical Services was on standby at the scene. So interesting that this is also dealing with fire, just like Ethan's story that he wrote about the house catching on fire. Although in Ethan's story, everybody died, and in this case, it looks like only one person died, although it was probably Ethan's grandmother, Gail? Huh. Oh, whoops, I wanted to read the other one. Text. More text. There we go. After heated public hearing, no one answers for Vandegrift heirs. Members of the Vandegrift family again gathered in the Bayfield County Courthouse today to debate the fate of the Vandegrift fortune, which has remained in escrow since 1961, when family patriarch Albert Vandegrift, 71, died in a mine accident, the after effects of which nearly destroyed Vandegrift Industrial and severely damaged the local economy. James Vandegrift, 38, of Chicago, argued that his father's demands were, quote, unreasonable, and that many Vandegrift family members have, quote, personal reasons, unquote, for wanting to avoid living in Red Creek Valley on the Vandegrift estate, as stipulated in the elder Vandegrift's will. The recent fire in which the Vandegrift home was damaged, he said, only underlined his family's concerns. Since 1967, the Carter family has lived upon the former Vandegrift estate as temporary caretakers. Interesting. So I don't really know what all that means, but it's kind of giving us a little bit of a background of what's going on here. So there's this abandoned Vandegrift house. The Carter family, and presumably including Ethan, at least his grandparents, they're staying here, taking care of the house, watching over it. They're caretakers. The house caught on fire. His grandmother died. Ethan had written a story about a house catching on fire and people dying, but they were looking for some sort of treasure, like a jade amulet. So that's interesting. Yeah, so we're getting a little bit of a background picture here. A little bit of stuff going on. So, back on the road here, I'm just going to kind of follow the train tracks. That's kind of a decent indicator of where we're headed. A good way to kind of mark our direction. Warning, right now, I'm just going to give you a bit of a warning. I have absolutely no sense of direction. So, this is going to be super painful.
Red Creek Valley seemed like a quiet, ordinary place. I've learned 2 things in my life. No place is truly quiet, and nowhere is really ordinary. Ethan warned me about that. Warned me not to be fooled by what I saw here. He didn't need to worry. I'd worked dozens of cases, hundreds. This would be my last one.
It's a nice looking game. I should probably throw out a little bit of a warning. This game deals with like gruesome murders and like dark, eldritch sort of things happening. I haven't solved the game or anything. Like I don't know exactly what's going on, but there are some fairly gruesome moments here. So just be warned. Be ready for that. We are going to be looking at dead bodies and trying to solve murder mysteries to some extent. Not solve, but you'll see. So yes, okay. So here's the thing. Train car, I suppose. So the developers are big on kind of layering some investigation clues and things like that into the game. So, interesting to note, check it out. Old, abandoned, rusty train car. Doesn't look terribly functional. And, oh yes, the front is covered in a blood splatter. So, we've got that going on here. We can also inspect the front, and it probably includes the little doodad that's sticking out there and the blood stains. So let's check it out. So blood. Animal blood? Human blood? Don't know. Was it an accident? Was it murder? Looks like this might be a crankshaft? First scratches. It's probably been used recently. So the idea is just, like, you're kind of visualizing our main character, our protagonist's thought process. You're kind of seeing just the questions he's rolling through his mind, like, oh, there's blood here. Was it an accident? Was it murder? Like, what happened? This looks like a crankshaft. There's scratches around it, you know, it's probably been used recently. Somebody probably did something. What on earth could have happened to the crank? And so it's not just like there to be annoying with the word crank all over the place. Crank, 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 crank. It's actually kind of pointing us in the direction of the crank. So our protagonist here has kind of this, like I said, he's a paranormal detective. He has this ability to kind of sense things and link them together. So the crank is over there somewhere, and he can actually visualize the crank and see it. So if we hit the button, it'll pull this open, and it'll give us a look. There's the crank right there. And if we watch, it's going to kind of give us clues as to where it's at. So it's on the coast, it's in the rocks, there's the water, and you can see the dam over on the left there. So if we look, like, there's the dam, and we know the crank is over here, so it's going to be down by the water on the rocks, so we can kind of, we have kind of a mental image of where that crank is, so we can actually go find it, in theory. So that's going to be basically what we do to solve a bunch of these mysteries, is we find a bunch of the bits and pieces through our detective sixth sense. So we can do that. I'm going to keep following the train tracks for a bit, though, before we go find the crank. Because the crank. Good grief. Words. Because there are a few more interesting things to take a look at here. So there's some sort of bloody mess up ahead there. But here's our first... Well, I guess our second. We saw the train car. Here's our next interesting clue. Got some ropes here, so we can inspect these. We can look at them ourselves, like ropes across a train track. There are little loops on either side. I mean, it looks maybe like the rope has been severed here, so like the train probably rolled over it, right? Because it's not draped across the track; it's been cut. Clearly tied to this thing, so it brings to mind kind of an old Snidely Whiplash, like damsel in distress tied to the train. Interesting sort of situation. However, worth pointing out, there's no blood around the ropes here. So whatever happened here, the person escaped, or at least didn't get run over. And then the train came through and didn't kill them. Or it was something tied up that doesn't bleed. So, cut ties. One of them is tied, the other one is not tied. Yeah, but there's no blood. So, interesting. So whatever happened, nobody got hurt here. But if we continue up here, and this is where things get a little more gruesome, severed legs and kind of a bloody mess here. So, good question. Where's the rest of the corpse? There's a blood trail. So the victim, were they dragged away? Did they crawl away? I mean, their body's clearly up there. You can see kind of the streaky blood as something was pulled or crawled across there. So, yeah, okay, I guess we're going after the blood trail. And, I mean, That's pretty far to crawl when you're bleeding like that and you don't have any legs. So, what do we got here? Just dead body, don't have any legs. I mean, I think we found our murdered victim. So yes, blood from the legs. It's also, yeah, blood from all over the place. Fractured skull, maybe? Did he die from blood loss? Did he die from head trauma? Because, yeah, I mean, for all of his not legs that he has back here, and the blood trail behind him, there's a lot of blood up here by his head, too. Like his ears bleeding. And he has a nasty gash in the top of his head there. So, the paranormal detective part of being a paranormal detective is whenever we find these dead bodies, we can kind of commune with the dead and see some of the events that happened immediately before their death. And if we solve a little minigame puzzle thing, it will let us see something that happened shortly after their death. But first, so when we try to sense this and try to interact with this person, we don't get very far. So, not yet. Death scene, eroded by time, disturbed by a third party. So we have to kind of reset the death scene and fix things to be more or less the way they were before this person died. So that's what we got to do. So we have this situation up here, and we have to kind of reassemble it and put it back the way it was before that person was killed. That's going to be our goal for these murder scenes. I don't even know what that means. That's kind of a good first thought. That's great, yeah. So let's take a look. So we got some dead grass here. We have some gasoline, maybe, or diesel fuel, perhaps. Just kind of laying there carelessly. Was it dropped in a rush? Was it dropped on purpose for some reason? Don't know. Yeah, so the dried grass, it's in a rectangle shape. So it got no sun. That's probably why it's all dried and dead. Maybe the rail car from the bridge? Yeah, so we already know where it is, but again, right, we can take a little look here and see the rail car out there on the bridge, giving us a clue as to something that's missing that should be here. So that's kind of our first clue. We need to find a way to get that rail car back over here to kind of reset the death scene. So that means we need the crank, which is going to be down there by the water. So I'm going to shoot for that down this lovely little pathway here. Okay, so we got rocks. We got the dam off in the distance there, so this is kind of our area. We just need to figure out exactly where the crank was. If I recall correctly, it was kind of propped up against some rocks, so... Crank. So we can take a look at it. Interesting to note that the end is all bloody, so this might lend a little bit of credence to our head trauma theory for how the victim died. I will hang on to that. Thank you very much. Can't explore too much more. Can't go out in the water, right? Invisible walls. My favorite video game trope. Okie dokie. So, got the crank. We know that we need to move the rail car back to kind of get the death scene back to the way it was before the victim was killed here. So let's take care of that real quick. I'm assuming this crank will do the job. So yes, crank. Back on there. We'll go ahead and spin her up. Get this thing started. Get this party started. And now we need to kind of try to line this thing up with the shady spot back here. So, we gotta go over the severed legs again. That's a bit creepy. But here's where the rail car goes. I think I want to be just a little bit past the... That should be good. Let's turn it off. I don't need that obnoxious motor noise going the whole time. So that kind of makes sense. We're maybe back a little bit far, but right. Crank was here, or the rail car was here. Somebody was starting her up with the crank. Got some fuel here. That looks like the... yeah. Yeah. Okay, alright, so we're making progress, I think. Let's go check our dead body and see if that's sufficient. Can we interact with you now, please? It's bigger. We're making progress, but it looks like we're still missing something. So, I didn't see anything else down the pathway there. Severed legs, I mean, I don't... Like, it's part of the victim, it's not necessarily a part of the crime scene. Rope, I mean... Short of, like, tying a person up or something, I don't even know what to do about that. I mean, there's no blood, so I don't know what happened there. This we're going to assume is fine. It's a little off-center, but, you know, it's close enough. So what else do we have back here? So, rubble and the tracks are all kind of closed off, so there's not much we can do over there. What about this? Aha! Rock. Rock, rock. Divot. Fresh dirt. Yes. So somebody moved a rock. So, it seems kind of trivial, but it must be important somehow, right? Okay, so the rock is over there. It's next to a tree stump. And it's just kind of in front of where we have the train car. So, easy enough to find. Front of the train car, look for a stump. There we go. Aha! The rock's covered in blood. So... a second blunt object? So... I wonder if the crank is just covered in blood because of... No, because the blood's all over here on the side. It didn't make it over there. We have an interesting situation where we have two bloody, blunt objects that have been moved, and somebody who maybe died from head trauma? So the rock is back. Is that enough to see what happened? Yes, we were successful. Alright, phase 2 of the investigation. So, we get to see some of the very recent memories of this person from right before he died. We're going to have to go find all of these, by the way. So, and I can, you know, move around during this. But we're going to need to locate these. It's going to be fairly important. So one of them is just right here. Right, so... dead body, although it's before he has that nasty head wound. And old man standing here holding the non-bloody crank. So I think we can guess as to what actually happened here. It doesn't explain the rock, though. This is a memory, so let's see what this one looks like. Okay, old man, same thing. Looks like he followed this guy? Did you move him, or did you just, like, follow him? And then there's a little kid here. We can also crouch. Oh, crouch is on a toggle. Oh, that's weird. Okay, so little kid. Dead body made its way all the way over there before getting his head bashed in. Presumably by the crank. I still maintain the crank theory of head bashery. Okay, so you're hanging out here, you're holding your head, you have a migraine on the train tracks. But you still have your legs attached, so... the rope. Okay, so... Mr. Person whose legs got chopped off by the rail car, he had the little kid tied up here. Yeah, creepy face. Alright, alright. Getting a bit of a picture as to what happened here. So... You're hanging out here. So you probably tied up the kid and then came over here to hop into the rail car. And then we have Gramps here. Do you have the crank? Aha. No, but you're holding the rock kind of behind your back. Yeah, I mean, from our victim's perspective, can't see the rock. He's kind of hiding it. So, and we don't know what happened to the little kid either. So Gramps probably got the rock from over here. Yeah, so there's Gramps grabbing the rock. Okie dokie, so this is what we do with the second phase. Now that we've found all of these memories, we have to actually figure out the chronology of them. So was this first? Was it last? Like there are 6 memories here. We gotta figure out what order they came in. Well, clearly you grabbed the rock before you actually came over here holding the rock, right? Like I think we got that under control. That's straightforward. That's easy. This one right here, I think it's kind of a gimme that this one's going to be last. And this one probably came right before it, because missing legs, right? So, 6 and then 5. I feel pretty confident about that. So the question is, what happened here? So, I don't know what to do about these. See, you're over here with the little kid. So we can go ahead and, now that we have everything tagged, we can just hit the visualize button, and it'll kind of walk us through how we think this might have happened.
Gail, honey, I wish there was another way.
Ah, that's Ed. Interesting.
Travis, tell me where Ethan is. Now.
Nope, not quite right. That's a bummer. That looks like that happened first, though. That one's solidified now. Doesn't have a question mark after it, so that's good. This didn't happen next, though. So, do we think that he was stumbling over here in what will quickly become a pool of blood with legs? I mean, again, I maintain that those two are probably the last ones. So, I mean, this is the only thing I can think of that came next, right? Does that follow? Does that make sense? So, this happened, then you confronted him over here with the rock, and, okay, so he tied up the little kid, and then as he was going to come get in this rail car and run the little kid over, I don't know why he'd want to do that, but that feels like that's what's going on here. You stepped in to save the little kid, right? You get the rock here, you come in here, and you whack him in the face with a rock, and you kind of maybe push or drag him over here, and then you run him over with the rail car yourself. Yeah, and then when he's crawling away, right, because you take the rail car pretty far, it ends up all the way down at the bridge. When he's crawling away, you walk over here, and you kind of follow him down here, and then you bash his head in with the crank, which you then just kind of chuck in that direction. That feels good, right? Does that feel good? I feel like a detective. Look at that. So we can visualize again, and we can watch this scene again. We just saw it, so I can skip
Listen
it.
to me. We can destroy it. I know how.
You can't destroy it, Ethan. You can't destroy time. And that's what he is. He is forever.
Travis, tell me where Ethan is. Now.
I'm giving the sleeper what he wants. What all of us want. Look, old man, you need to go home.
Alright, so Ethan, he's untying himself. He made his way out. Travis is stumbling around over there holding his head.
No.
Oh, that sucks.
Ethan, run, goddammit. Go! Get out of here! Travis, close your eyes.
Okay, so we figured it out. We deduced this death scene, murder scene, I guess we can call it. And now we have one final memory that we have unlocked that we get to see, and it's something that happened after this person died. After Travis was bashed in the head. And it's going to be down there, so we'll go take a look at that in just a moment. But, interesting that he was trying to kill Ethan. So I'm assuming that was Ethan Carter, right? That's who vanished and who we are looking for, hence the name of the game. It was his grandpa, Ed, who was mentioned. Gail died. Ed Carter is watching the house. Ethan wrote the little paper for him about the forest burning down and everybody dying. This is a really morbid game. This is dark stuff. So let's check out our final memory here and see what we get.
Grandpa? Stay away!
Ethan, I'm sick too. I can feel the sleeper in my head.
Then fight it! I have to destroy the room!
Corvus, I'm sorry. Ethan,
Oh no!
I can't let you do that.
Whatever had turned Ethan's family against him, the grandfather was trying to resist. Age helps against those things that feed on hate. Not because of wisdom or experience, because the old are tired. Their hate is less useful.
Okay, so that's our first puzzle solved. Well, first two, I guess, if we want to count the traps. We found a little page that Ethan had written. We saw Travis. I don't know who Travis is. I mean, he's a dead body now, but I don't know who Travis was. We saw him trying to kill Ethan, because that's what the sleeper wanted. Ethan is trying to stop the sleeper. And Ethan's grandpa, Ed, who Ethan had written a little thing for, a little story, he stopped Travis from killing Ethan and then tried to kill Ethan himself. So, yeah, we got us a little bit of intrigue. What do you think? You hooked yet? Are you intrigued? Are you curious to see where this goes? I'm loving it. I'm so digging the game. Like, this is just right up my alley. Oh, I love it. So good. So yes, thank you all for joining me, and we will continue the vanishing of Ethan Carter next time.